up, everybody? This is Shane Told from Silverstein, and you're listening to Moshpit, Sin on 90.7.
You're listening to Moshpit on Sin 90.7, and today I have a very special guest. I have Shane Told from Silverstein, who will be touring Australia in the upcoming months with Pierce the Veil. Welcome, Shane.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Never better, man. Just hanging out in Toronto. It's a beautiful day, and yeah, man, I'm really excited for this Australian tour.
Awesome. So it was announced pretty recently. When was the last time you were in Australia? I believe last year for the 10th anniversary?
That's exactly right, yeah. That was the last time. So, and that was kind of a special tour. That was us sort of celebrating our past and, our most loved album, Discovering the Waterfront, and playing that from start to finish. What a show in Melbourne. Great show. So, yeah, and then now it's cool because it's been quite a while since we've been back to just kind of play, kind of a normal set and play, our current material and of course we always play some of the greatest hits, but, to kind of just go to what we're doing now, what's the current status of our band, and of course with being with great friends, Pierce the Veil and also Beartooth, who's some of our best friends, to be with them is going to be amazing, and, doing multiple nights in Melbourne, so much fun. I'm really excited.
Awesome. So, in terms of things that have maybe changed in the past few, in the past few months, you've been taking a bit of a break from touring, to my understanding.
Yeah.
So, what have you been getting up to in your time off the road?
Well, I mean, it's been kind of a weird time for me personally. I mean, the last 2 months I've been off. I went through actually a pretty bad breakup with a person I dated for 4.5 years. So actually I've kind of just been, finding myself a little bit over this past 2 months, and just kind of reflecting and working on some music and hanging out. And, it's been actually ended up being a very positive time for me. So taking this time and now gearing up to go back on the road, before we head over to Australia, we have, a European tour, which is going to be a lot of fun. So, for me, it's just been kind of getting back, to myself, and I've learned a lot about myself in the last 2 months. So it's actually been kind of a crazy time for me.
Of course, rough times being back at home and sort of being with yourself at times, and as you sort of have gone into sort of reflecting and self-discovery. Is there anything that you sort of have to do before you get back onto the road, going to Europe, going to Australia? Of course, you're not going to be home for a while. We mentioned, we were just discussing before we started recording this interview that you went and sort of ran some errands. Are there any bookkeeping things that you have to sort of take care of before you head off?
Oh yeah, sure. There's always things to do. I mean, regardless of what I'm going through personally, of course, there's always errands and tasks to run. But a lot of times, with this, like you say, self-discovery I've gone through, which is a very, very good way to put it. I've kind of, I've gotten in touch with some of my old friends that I haven't seen as much over the last few years. When you're in a relationship, you tend to hang out with the person you're in the relationship with a lot, and you don't see your friends as much. So I've been enjoying that and just exploring some new things and some new hobbies and stuff that I've really enjoyed. And I think before you go back on the road, I think getting your head straight is important. I think making sure that you're able to be where you need to be in your own headspace to do the task, which for me is getting on stage, performing the songs to the best of my ability, and also being there for the fans and stuff. That's all important to me, and I think that now I feel more excited and more ready to do that than I've maybe ever felt.
Of course.
So for me, it's been very, very positive on that level.
Yeah, I think getting your head straight has been a pretty consistent theme throughout the Silverstein discography. A lot of the lyrics sort of talk about either running away from home just to get your head straight, or sort of coming home to get your head straight and sort of dealing with stuff. How has the reception been for the previous album, I Am Alive in Everything I Touch? Last we chatted with you guys. It wasn't released yet, so
yep.
a ton's happened since its release.
Yeah. Well, the record's been really well received, and I think it's definitely been, cemented as one of our best records. Some people have called it our very best, which, when you've put out 7 albums, and you still feel like you're making your best music, 15 years into your career, 16 years into our career, that's an amazing thing. And going back to what you said about the whole, getting your head straight, I think that's a very, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, when you talk about summing up, what our lyrics have meant in terms of, emotion and stuff. And I think one thing we've always tried to do with our lyrics is it's been important for us to instill a sense of hope within it, and we talk about dark things that have happened, and believe me, I have a lot more of them to talk about now too. But at the same time, one of the things I've always said is things, life gets better. Things get better as you move on, as you get older. You learn more and you grow and you become smarter and you actually enjoy life more and more. And that's kind of an amazing thing for me to now that I've told people for all these years, and now for me to go through it firsthand has been actually a really, really uplifting experience for me. So I think that's yeah. I'm really pleased with that. To be able to kind of use my own, take my own advice a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you sound incredibly present and forward-looking. I think the best time for any musician or any creative person is to think that they're doing their best work currently and moving forward. Any indications of so you mentioned a bit earlier that you were working on some new music. I'm sure that's not uncommon for you. So do you think the next release might be sort of darker in tone or dealing with interpersonal relationships?
I don't know, man. I haven't got there yet, to be completely honest. I will say this, though, in talking about music getting better and better, I went and I went over to Paul Mark's house. He lives just by me. Went over there and worked on some music. We wrote a song. And I'm not even kidding you, man. I think it's the best song we've ever written. And to be able to honestly say that to you right now, I'm not saying that because this is a radio interview or whatever. I'm saying that because it's actually true. I think it's the best song we've ever written. And to be able to say that, at this stage in our career is so uplifting and so positive that I'm excited, and generally speaking, I'm a pretty positive dude, and sometimes people are always a little confused when they meet me because I'm a happy guy and I'm socially, outgoing and stuff. So people are confused sometimes when they're like, well, aren't you the guy that wrote, Bleeds No More and these negative songs? So, but at the same time, I don't really know what's going to come out because right now I'm just feeling so positive and I'm feeling so excited about the music we're writing and the melodies that Paul Mark and I were able to put, on paper that honestly, I don't know. Maybe the record will actually be more of an uplifting album and not as dark.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say, and you don't really know what's going to come and what's going to inspire you and what is going to take over the tone of the album. That being said, all of our albums have had dark parts and uplifting parts in the same album. So there's a good chance that it'll be more like that.
Yeah.
But it just feels great, man, to just to be real with you. It feels so great now to have put out an album last year that we feel so positive and now me and Paul Mark get in the room to write for the first time in over a year. And the first thing we come up with is something I'm so jazzed about.
That's great.
It's a really, really great. I feel like I'm in a great place.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a misperception of hardcore and metal music at times, that it is just all encompassing anger and angst, but really those are a part of the human experience, and if you sort of live through them, you end up coming out learning something about yourself and learning something about how other people sort of perceive things. But yeah, it's incredible to hear.
Absolutely.
You being so passionate about what you're doing currently, and I'm sure it's a sign that Silverstein's not going to slow down anytime soon. let's quickly talk about some other musical happenings. If you were to make a bit of a playlist for our listeners, what are some of the things that you've been listening to lately?
Oh, geez, man. I'm not the best guy to ask because I kind of like still listen to like the Smiths and Morrissey and like
nothing wrong with
punk
that.
rock. So I like honestly, dude. You know what I put on in my car yesterday?
What?
I put on Metallica, Master of Puppets. Which that record's from, I think it's like 1986.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for relative, new, cool, upcoming bands to check out, I'm not the guy to ask at all. You should ask our drummer Paul, because he every year he puts out like a top 10 list of his favorite 10 records of the year, and I'm not even saying I haven't heard the record. I haven't even heard of the fucking band. that he's put from the last of the 10. Like I probably haven't heard of 8 out of 10 of the bands.
Yeah.
So people are way more into new music than I am, and that's fine. I think it's great that people are, but for me, music is a lot of it. When I listen to music, I'm listening to it to kind of relax and hang out and chill. There's a lot of new bands I love. Like I love Real Friends. I love Beartooth. Those are two bands I jam all the time that are newer kind of bands.
Yeah.
But for me, like if I'm going to get in my car, I'm a lot more likely to throw on like Master of Puppets than I am like, some new artist I haven't heard of, just because I'm around music all the time.
Yeah.
And for me, I love listening to like my old favorites. So not a great question to ask me.
Yeah, of course. Like, I think obviously music comes in all shapes and sizes for all sorts of people, and like at the end of the day, radio kind of is just that. Like, it's something to put on in the background. It puts you in the right, like, sort of mood to go about your day, doing the things that you love to do. So yeah, listening to something that inspired you when you were a bit younger is like an obvious choice. Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with you in terms of radio. Like, there was a time in my life, and especially like there was a couple stations in Toronto here where I live that had late night, college radio punk rock shows.
Yeah.
Where they would play punk rock, and it wasn't mainstream at all. And every, I think it was once a week, there was a show called Mods and Rockers here in Toronto, and I used to listen to it every week. And I used to tape a cassette off the radio. Because there was no, I couldn't Shazam it or whatever,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I would, and I would tape it off and I would listen to those tapes, and that's how I would discover new music. And I think, radio is absolutely still relevant, for discovering new music and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's just for me, now where I am as a 35-year-old man, to be completely honest with you, I'm not as immersed in trying to find new bands as I was then. I'm still as hungry and as passionate about music and writing music, but in terms of trying to find new bands to listen to, I got a lot of bands to listen to.
Yeah, of course.
And
there's been
so
everything
for me,
before
that's
you.
fine. And I'll stumble across things I'll tell you, Real Friends is a band I just got into them kind of recently. I think they're an amazing band. So every now and then there'll be a newer band that I really, really, really embrace, but it's definitely fewer and further between, as I get older, which, I can't say I'm, it is what it is.
Yeah, of course. So I'll ask you one last question before you head off.
Sure.
So as I mentioned to you before, Sin's a under 25 volunteer-driven community radio station. Do you have any advice for any young creatives who are just going through some tough times? As we discussed before, it's a heavy part of your lyrics, and as I mentioned, also sort of dove into, you're very presently minded, and you sort of know that the hard times will eventually, improve and change who you are. So, is there any advice that you'd give to people who are sort of young now and are basically just trying to figure out what they want to do?
I think people have to be open to experimenting, going out, seeing what's out there, talking to people, meeting people. I think it's very, very easy when you're under 25. I think, a lot of people are shy, and they're shy and they're a bit scared of what's out there. And I'm not saying go out there and and I say experiment. I don't mean like sexually. Don't do that. And I don't mean with drugs. Don't do that. You know, I just mean like go out and you know, take a walk and you know, hey, talk to somebody in a you know, in your class or whatever you're doing and learn something else, and you know, have an open mind. And I think that really goes a long way in terms of getting somewhere and getting maybe out of your own little funk you might be in. I think now the tendency with younger people is everyone's on their phone all the time, or everyone's got their nose in their MacBook, and everyone is trying to learn things online, where I think there's something to be said for actually getting out in the real world and talking to people. You know, I think that's a big key to this. And at the same time, I think you got to stay positive, and that's kind of been Silverstein's mantra, you know, throughout our career is managing expectations, you know, keeping your expectations low so you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
Enjoying what you have, and I think you go from there. And I think that's you know, just being positive and being happy and humble is always a great way to do it.
Awesome. So that was Shane Told from Silverstein, and they'll be touring with Pierce the Veil later in Melbourne this year. And we'll end on a track of your choice from the latest album, I Am Alive in Everything I Touch. Shane, what's going to be your choice?
Let's go with the song Continual Condition. We just made a video for it. It's probably our best video we've made, and it's got this big-ass heavy riff that kicks it off. So people are going to be jamming out in their cars when they hear this heavy riff. So let's do that. Continual Condition.
Awesome. You're listening to Sin 90.7. This is a Moshpit.